Imagine a world where shadows whisper secrets, and a line between the living and the dead blurs with every flicker of a lantern's light. This is the realm of Kaidan, the traditional Japanese ghost stories that have haunted imaginations for centuries. Rooted deeply in folklore and local legend, Kaidan are more than just scary tales. They are windows into the spiritual and cultural fabric of Edo period Japan, reflecting how people once understood and coped with the mysteries of life, death, and the unseen world. The word Kaidan itself combines two Japanese characters, kai, meaning mysterious or strange, and dan, meaning talk or story. Together, they suggest stories of the eerie and the uncanny, passed down from generation to generation. These tales often feature restless spirits, vengeful ghosts, and supernatural encounters that serve not only to chill, but also to teach and caution. In the bustling streets and quiet rural villages of Edo-era Japan, roughly spanning the 17th to 19th centuries, such stories were shared orally among people to warn against moral failings, strange behaviors, or simply as entertainment during long winter nights. Many Kaidan unfold in settings familiar to everyday life: a lonely road, a forgotten temple, or a rural household. These stories often revolve around spirits trapped between worlds due to unresolved emotions like anger, jealousy, or sorrow. For example, a woman betrayed might return as an onryo, a vengeful ghost capable of inflicting harm on the living. While such stories might seem like simple ghost tales, they provide a fascinating lens on how Edo period society perceived the afterlife and human emotions transcending death. Interestingly, the exact origins of many Kaidan remain shrouded in mystery. Some are believed to have evolved from Buddhist teachings about karma and rebirth, while others may stem from Shinto beliefs about kami, spirits inhabiting natural elements. Local legends often vary from region to region, resulting in diverse narratives that share common themes of punishment, redemption, and the moral consequences of one's actions. During the Edo period, storytelling itself was a popular craft. Professional storytellers, known as katsuban, would hold performances in theaters or street corners, captivating audiences with their dramatic narrations of Kaidan. These tales were not only a form of entertainment, but also a social mechanism to reinforce cultural values and fears. In that sense, Kaidan were living entities, adapting and evolving with each telling, shaped by the fears and hopes of the people who narrated them. Moreover, the oral tradition meant that these ghost stories often carried multiple versions, each colored by regional dialects and local customs. This fluidity allowed the stories to resonate personally with listeners, making the specters and morals feel close to home. While tangible evidence for these spirits remains elusive, the rich folklore surrounding Kaidan reveals much about the collective imagination and unresolved stories passed down through centuries. Today, Kaidan continues to hold a powerful place in Japanese culture, not only in literature and theater, but also influencing modern horror films and popular media, though that evolution is a story for later. As the Edo period waned and Japan moved toward the modern age, Kaidan stories found new life, not just spoken around flickering fires or in the stalls of street performers, but now captured in written works, staged in vibrant kabuki theaters, and later adapted into early films. Literature became an essential vessel for preserving Kaidan, giving permanence to tales that had once existed primarily in the fluid realm of oral tradition. A notable example is the influential collection Kaidan, Stories and Studies of Strange Things, compiled by Lafcadio Hearn in the early 20th century. This English-language anthology helped introduce Japanese ghost stories to a global audience, though many of the tales Hearn adapted rested in the realm of folklore rather than recorded fact. Meanwhile, the theatrical tradition of kabuki embraced Kaidan themes with open arms. Known for its dynamic acting, vivid costumes, and dramatic storytelling, kabuki frequently staged ghost stories that showcased restless spirits and vengeful apparitions. These performances often drew directly from urban legends or local rumors, weaving supernatural justice and moral reckoning into their narratives. One enduring kabuki tale centers on the ghost of Oiwa, a woman poisoned by her husband and transformed after death into a terrifying Onryo, a spirit who seeks punishment for the wrongs done to her. The legend of Oiwa has become symbolic, its variations underscoring recurring motifs found across Kaidan: betrayal, vengeance, and the haunting consequences of unresolved emotions. These themes were not mere storytelling devices. They resonated deeply with the societal anxieties of the time. Feudal Japan was a world rife with rigid hierarchies, secret resentments, and power struggles. Kaidan's stories articulated a collective unease about injustice, social exile, and the dangers lurking just beyond sight. In particular, the vengeance of wronged ghosts served as a form of supernatural justice, an outlet for fears about corruption, abuse, and moral collapse. Additionally, many Kaidan contain implicit warnings about the consequences of selfish or malicious actions, reinforcing community values and the belief in karmic retribution without ever being explicit sermons. These narratives were layered with ambiguity, some arising from well-known legends, while others grew from whispered rumors or unresolved mysteries. For example, the story of Yatsuya Kaidan, from which the Oiwa ghost tale originates, blends historical hints with folklore so tightly that distinguishing fact from fiction becomes nearly impossible. In this sense, the legends endured less as documented history and more as cultural touchstones that echoed the emotional truths of the Japanese people. With the introduction of film in the early 20th century, Kaidan stepped onto a new stage. The medium's visual and auditory capacities brought ghost stories' eerie atmospheres vividly to life, often amplifying their psychological impact. Silent films and later talkies portrayed haunting images of ethereal figures, restless spirits, and chilling retributions, laying groundwork for the horror genre that Japan would soon popularize worldwide. Still, much about these early cinematic adaptations stems from local legend and folklore, their supernatural elements embraced as storytelling conventions rather than truths to be proven. The reach of Kaidan tales, with their haunting atmospheres and complex emotional themes, extends far beyond Japan's shores, subtly influencing global horror traditions in cinema and literature. While the exact pathways of this cultural ripple effect often blend into folklore and rumor, it's clear that the core elements of Japanese ghost stories have inspired many modern interpretations worldwide. In particular, the archetype of the Onryo, the vengeful spirit wronged in life and returning to unsettle the present, has become a recognizable figure in horror films and novels beyond its native context. For example, Western cinema's fascination with ethereal, emotionally charged ghosts shares a curious resonance with Kaidan's portrayal of spirits burdened by sorrow or vengeance. Films like The Ring and The Grudge, which originated from Japanese horror, introduced international audiences to visual and thematic motifs drawn from these traditional stories. Pale, long-haired ghosts haunting confined spaces, unresolved injustices spilling over into the living world. These cinematic echoes often blur the line between retelling and reinterpretation, reshaping Kaidan's archetypes to fit new cultural fears and narrative styles. Literature, too, has absorbed and transformed elements of Kaidan. Writers intrigued by folklore and supernatural themes sometimes draw on the haunting emotional logic that animates Japanese ghost stories. The idea that spiritual unrest originates from human wrongdoing or neglected promises. Yet, much like the tales themselves, the exact origins of such influences are not always clear-cut. Some scholars suggest overlapping themes of guilt, sorrow, and supernatural justice emerge independently across cultures, while others see a more direct lineage traced through translation, film, and academic study. Behind these uncertainties lies the enduring truth that stories of ghosts and haunted places tap into universal human anxieties, mortality, betrayal, and the unseen consequences of our actions. This universality may explain why Kaidan, despite rootedness in specific historical and cultural soil, continue to feel relevant and chilling for modern audiences everywhere. Beyond artistic inspiration, Kaidan's influence can also be seen in how modern horror shapes the way people conceptualize haunted places and spiritual encounters. Ideas of cursed locations, restless spirits bound by emotion, and the thin veil separating worlds have permeated horror folklore globally. Even where direct connections to Japanese tales are debated or unknown, the shared language of fear and the supernatural speaks to a collective imagination shaped in part by age-old stories like Kaidan. As we reflect on this cross-cultural dialogue, it becomes evident that folklore wields a remarkable power, the ability to traverse borders, evolve with time, and mold not only entertainment, but also cultural fears and values. Kaidan's stories, whether regarded as literal truth, metaphor, or unresolved legend, invite us to consider how storytelling connects us to our deepest fears and hopes, linking past and present, east and west. Ultimately, the ghost stories of old continue to haunt us, not simply as relics of history, but as living narratives that shape the mysteries we tell ourselves about life, death, and what might lie beyond.